Hello everybody, my name is Kitty Kitty Meow Meow and I am coming from Quandamooka country today, which is bordering onto Jagera country, and I am here on top of a train, a coal train. You can't really see it, but this is me, and I just wanted to start by giving my acknowledgement to country and paying respects to ancestors and also to elders, past, present and emerging. And I just want to make a point that this is stolen land and sovereignty never ceded. And today I am here because we are in a state of total climate catastrophe and crisis, and it is the continent of Australia that we are facing, one of many continents facing total climate collapse, catastrophe and crisis. And I'm here because Australia and its many systems, governances, tyranny is not doing anything to stop the climate catastrophe, so it's up to us to take matters into our own hands. My name is Kitty, but I'm actually dressed as a possum today, and I'm a nocturnal creature, and I'm standing in solidarity with all my furry friends, because it's not just us, the people, that are experiencing this climate catastrophe, it's all the beings that coexist and share this space on this continent known as Australia. And I think it's really quite disillusioning that not many beings actually get to activate their voice or get to speak for themselves in the absolute disaster that is occurring. This is a deliberate destruction, a deliberate chaos, and one of the many things that is imposing this chaos is the raping and pillaging of this planet and this continent that often is used to export and ship goods, services, trade. So that's why today we've decided to stop all the train and freight activity into the Port of Brisbane. The Port of Brisbane is one of 8 major trade ports. Why the Port of Brisbane? It's one of Australia's fastest growing ports, and there is a lot of commercial activity and trade that goes on here. Australia, the continent, states that 98% of all trade is conducted through its ports. So that's why I think it's really important as a little possum to try and make a stand and create some kind of imposition and disruption, because our habitats have been disrupted for far too long now. It's really upsetting to see the total climate crisis and collapse, and I'm a 25-year-old person, and I'm feeling very disillusioned as a young person because I feel like there's not enough being done, there's not enough being spoken, and I think it's really important that we stand up and make a change and want to create the world that we want to live in. If we're not doing it, nobody else will. So that's why we've decided today to stop all the train and freight activity. I think that it's really important, and I'm really grateful to have an opportunity to stand in solidarity on the train. You can't really see, but this is it. The train is stopped. And I think it's cool what we're doing. I think it's important to actually have an opportunity to stand up and do something, because I'm sick of feeling like I'm sitting docile and content with the total disruption and upsetting conditions that I'm being forced to live in. This continent has a series of systems and governances and tyrannies and corporations that don't actually serve to represent the land or the people or the species that coexist upon it. I think it's really important that the people grab and direct their autonomy back to themselves. I think it's really important that we remember that we, the people, have the power to do whatever we believe in, and we can't keep letting these major transnational organizations and governances and tyrannies control every single aspect and facet of our existence to the point where it's at utter catastrophe. I don't like living in this state of anxiety and fear of what is going to happen in the future. I don't like living in this limbo where the ecosystems that we're meant to coexist with are actually falling away and are at breaking point and are unable to stand up and speak for themselves. I don't like what's happening environmentally. I don't like what's happening politically. I don't like what's happening as a collective. I feel that we have the power as a collective to stand up and make a change, and I'm sick of sitting and watching no change occur from all these actions that aren't doing anything. So that's why today we've decided to do non-violent direct action, but do something that's going to be impactful on these major kind of trade bottlenecks. So 98% of all of this continent's trade activity happens through ports, which is why we've decided to block the train and freight of Brisbane today. I am a being that believes in equality, and I think that every being that coexists on this planet should have the opportunity to do so in harmony and equilibrium. And I really believe that this continent known as Australia is not actually representing or allowing that equality to take place. I'm feeling like there's a massive social justice gap that's occurring between the classes, and I feel like this gap is widening every single day. It's getting harder and harder to live, and despite this being a continent so vast with resources, it seems that we're just raping and pillaging and destructing the space around us just to export all these resources off. And for what? To see our ecosystems completely collapse and not be able to actually exist in any point of harmony. I find that really upsetting, and I think it's really important as a young person to feel as though I'm able to actually do something. And I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for all the people that don't have the ability to actually stand up and make an active change, because you might not be in a position to do so. And I commend and respect any person that is trying to activate a world in which they feel comfortable and safe to live in. And I think it's really important that we as a people live in a space where we feel happy and content and feel like we're working towards something and creating hope and blossoming. And I just feel like the current tyranny and systems in place on this continent known as Australia don't actually allow that activation to blossom. So I think it's really important that we make and be the change that we want to see in the world, and that's why I'm sitting here today. And we have successfully blocked the train line, so that means that all the freight and train activity cannot actually go forward, which is wholesome. And I'm just really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to be standing in solidarity, doing coordinated actions, working towards creating resistance, because resistance allows there to be some kind of differentiation in the modality of reality that we're living in. So I think that's really awesome. And I'm happy to be here talking to you guys, and I'm happy to be here sitting in this pile of coal, because Australia just loves to export all their resources and create total destruction and chaos. So I'm grateful to be sitting here right now, and I just want to be acting as a voice of solidarity for those things that don't have voices, because we are in total climate catastrophe and chaos right now. So that's why I'm taking direct action to work towards creating some kind of a disruption in this system, in these systems that are existing in this continent known as Australia, to provide some kind of a vehicle and mechanism to activate my voice, which often feels non-heard and feels kind of pointless, because I'm just one of many voices that don't know how to make themselves heard. So that's why I'm here today, creating a differentiation in my day-to-day living, a differentiation where I feel like my voice is going to be somewhat heard. And yeah, I think that's really important. I think that the people deserve to have their autonomy returned back to them. I think that's a gradual process, and I think that that process needed to happen a long time ago, and that's okay, because through all the disillusions we've realized the importance and the utter imperative nature for it to happen right now, because we are in a state of catastrophe, in a state of disaster. And it's just important to remember that even though everything seems to be really quite disconcerting and like there's no hope, there's always hope. We have the ability to collectively make a difference and do whatever we think that we can do. And today I'm hoping to do a positive difference. Even though it might seem not positive, I think it's important to be disrupting that which creates disillusion. So I'm here sitting on the coal and chilling, to train. And I feel really grateful for all the people that work together and who are sick of just sitting in mundane modalities where they're not doing anything. So that's why I am here today. I think that this continent has been waging a war on First Nations people for a very long time. I think that I am but one of many voices who is feeling the discontent from the chaos, and I feel proud to be working with people that want to actually make a difference and create a resistance, and working functionally in a way that actually disrupts these major bottlenecks of the economy, of the political, of the system that is the Australian continent. And I think that I am but one of many people who can make this difference, and I hope that everybody who is watching remembers that they too can make a difference. I think it's really important to act locally. I think it's important to remember that there is a magic amongst the grassroots, the people and the community. And if we actually step back and sit together and focus on what we believe in and the dreams that we want to be conceiving, I truly think anything is possible. So that's why I'm here today, and I am dressed like an animal because I wanted to act as a voice for the animals, because I feel like the birds and the bees, the air and the trees, the nature itself doesn't actually get to speak a lot, and to me it's speaking, and I can hear the screaming of the earth because there is so much trauma and displacement. But I feel like not a lot of people actually hear those voices of the echoes of the leaves and the trees and the birds and the bees. So that's why I am here today speaking as I am, because I'm a little possum, I'm a nocturnal creature, and I'm really freaked out by all the bright fluorescent lights that are just like continuously burning all the time. Like I can't actually get home because my home doesn't exist anymore. So that's why I'm sitting on a coal train and having to disrupt all the freight lines into this port of Brisbane, because I don't actually have a place to go back to anymore where I feel safe and where I feel actually protected. So I'm sitting here to try and protect all my furry friends and remember that this is not the end. There is always resurgence, there is always hope. Light shines brighter in the darkest of spaces. So that's why I'm here with my little torch. I've got all this coal, which is going to be exported to God knows where to create God knows what dysfunctional chaos. But I'm happy that even if for a short time, I'm able to disrupt this bottleneck and disrupt this raping and pillaging and exportation of goods and services that just seem to be creating more and more distress through the utter and absolute climate catastrophe and chaos. It seems absolutely baffling to me, because as a creature that coexists in a collective sphere of environment that's meant to be shared, I feel like there is absolutely no sharing going on. There is no equality between all the beings that coexist and live on this space. And I'm here in Brisbane today, blocking the port of Brisbane, which is Australia's fastest growing port, I'll have you know. So I think it's really important. And I feel really grateful that we've blocked all the freight and train activity. And I just don't understand why we export all our goods and services, and then we're here struggling to even afford the cost of living. It just makes no sense. As a young person, I'm just absolutely baffled. I was born into this system. I was born into this tyranny. I was born into this kind of gloomy outlook that, well, what's the point? Because this has been going on for so long, nobody is actually able to do anything. But then I remembered, oh, okay. We can actually do whatever we think. Even just the power of our minds have the ability to create a change, not only within our own lives, but within the lives of those around us. And I really like how in biology and sociology, every microsphere of existence directly correlates, reflects, and is embedded and co-created with every macro existence. So we basically live in like a giant realm of mirrors. And I think that every difference that we make on our own little micro universes, in our own little microspheres, it ripples out into the wider universe and the wider world and creates a difference in some way out there as well, kind of like the butterfly effect. So I really think that making a change in your life that is positive and makes you feel good about yourself is essential. And I think taking a look at the bigger picture and seeing these modalities of existence, such as the many systems and tyranny and policies and corporations that make up this continent, Australia, maybe taking a look at the outside picture and seeing how they are driving deliberate destruction and total catastrophe and climate collapse. So that's why I'm sitting here today, because we need to take direct action. We need to take matters into our own hands, and we need to remember the autonomy of the people, and we need to remember that we have the ability to make a change, and we should be stepping up and making those changes. Now, I'm not saying that every single person should be getting up and stopping all the train and freight activity in a port like Brisbane, but I'm saying that you should be living a life where you feel like you are happy. And I think that taking a step back and identifying things that don't make us happy, which I think we can all say that the systems and tyranny and destruction that is being caused on this continent, Australia, in some way don't make all of us happy. I think it's important to identify that as a major issue that is not going away. It's imminent, it's here, it's impactful, and we need to think, what can we do to create a change? Why is a change important? A change is important because we are vehicles of change. We're only human. We're not meant to be stagnant creatures living in spirals of depression and fear and anxiety. We're meant to be capable. We're meant to be co-creators. We're meant to be collectively coexisting with each other. And when I say each other, I don't just mean us as humans. I mean each other, or the spheres that we exist on. We are one of many creatures coexisting in these ecospheres. And I think it's essential to remember that we need to create harmony in these spheres. If we don't create harmony, we're just going to see utter destruction, which is already happening. We're at total climate collapse, and I just don't understand why people don't want to protect each other. I'm here in solidarity with all my furry friends because I really think it's important that we act as a voice for each other as well. If you see somebody getting hurt, do you want that person to keep getting hurt? Me, not personally. And I think that most people don't like to see pain inflicted on another human. But why is that not the same for the earth and for the animals and for the air itself? Like, hello, do we not want to be able to breathe? Like, I'm so concerned that I'm not even going to be able to breathe clean air in the not so distant future. It's already not that clean. In the city, there is a tremendous difference. It's the big smoke. You can feel it filling up your lungs. What about the poor little critters that don't have lungs as big as ours? They're really struggling, and I just think it's absolutely disgusting that it's gotten to this point. And it's okay, there's hope, we can turn it around, but there's no more time for waiting. Like, the time is now. We are at the point of total destruction and total debauchery, and it just seems baffling to me that people are content to watch it happen. Like, we just get so stuck in these modalities of thinking like, oh, that's all right, that's how it is, that's how it is. It's not how it was 10 years ago. It's not how it was 20 years ago. Like, we're watching everything around us crumble. Like, we're in total catastrophe. So I think it's just essential that we step up and remember solidarity with each other. Kitty got claws. Like, if you mess with the kitty, you get the claws. But today I'm a possum because I don't want to... I think it's important to remember that every single creature needs a voice, and possums are nocturnal, and we're doing this in the nighttime here. And I just want to say I'm so grateful to have created some kind of a disruption. And I just want you all to remember that even though what you're doing might seem small, if it's actually activating a change and doing something to disrupt and to create resistance in something that makes you feel upset as existing as a human being, you're doing great. And remember, you can always do more. Once you get over that first little kind of stepping stone, there's a whole entire universe out there which you can play with. And I think it's important to remember that we have the ability to make a change. So that's why I'm sitting here in hopes to remember the collective efforts of resistance. We are in total climate catastrophe. The time is now. The time to step up and make a change. It was a long time ago, but there's still hope and we can still keep going. So I think that is why it is essential for us to take matters into our own hands. And I'm not saying don't write to your local politicians. Don't try and answer those surveys truthfully. Do that, but maybe do a little bit more as well, because it's reaching tipping point. Like, I feel like it reached tipping point a while ago. I have hope. I believe. I know that we are capable of creating anything that we want to live in, and that is the reality that we dream of. So I think it's just important that we step up and do so. I'm sick of existing in a state of fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real, and I think that the systems that we are forced to coexist on this continent known as Australia don't actually serve the people, the creatures, the land. It just seems to be based on this kind of outset of resources, which makes me really upset and seems kind of stupid. There's somebody coming. I'll say hi. Or maybe they'll say hi to me. So that's the police. So we've got a fantastic banner hanging off the train which says resistance, hope lies in resistance. And hope does lie in resistance. And there's another one that also says, this system is killing us. We're doing ghost story time because the system is killing us. The time is now. We need to get up and make a change. And I am really excited to stand in solidarity with all my furry friends to activate a change. I think that hope lies in resistance and the system is killing us. And I think the time is now. I'm actually a possum today. Yes, I'm nocturnal. Well, I could be Peter, but I'd say I am more adorable. How are you? Okay. I'm not going to be able to do that. In ways, yes. I'm gonna say that I'm sitting here today blocking the Port of Brisbane, and I think it's really important to create disruption because hope lies in resistance. And I just wanted to make comment that 98% of all of trade happens through Australia's ports, and this is one of the fastest growing ports in Australia. So I think it's really special that we've actually stopped all train and phone activity for this evening, and I feel really grateful to stand in solidarity with all my furry friends and try and activate some form of a resistance. I think that the tyranny that has been collaborating on these systems that are imposed on us in this continent known as Australia are absolutely disastrous, and they've taken us to a point of total climate catastrophe and emergency. And that's why I am sitting here on the coal train today. Here's the coal. There's the senior constable or whatever he is, and here's me wishing to remind people to get up and do something. If you feel disillusioned, as I do, and I'm sure I'm not one person who's feeling disillusioned, I think that we need to remember that we all have the ability to make a change. I think it's important to reach out to our grassroots and to recreate our local communities and remind the autonomy and power of the people. We have the ability to do anything. And even though it might not seem it, because we've been imposed with all these really hectic, totalitarianism systems which don't serve or represent, protect or reflect our needs, not only our needs as people, but the needs of the greater ecosystems that we coexist in, that of the land, that of the flora, that of the fauna. I just think that it's totally destructive, and it's a deliberate mechanism with many cogs that aims to destruct and destroy. And I think that it's not okay to sit and just do nothing. The time is now. The time was a long time ago, but the time is still now, and the time is still coming. I'm worried about the future. I'm worried about my friends. I'm worried about my family. I'm worried about this land that we exist on. And this land, every footprint we do creates a presence. And every presence has an essence. And every single step, every single mood, every single feeling, every single thought, it creates a synergy and exists in an equilibrium with all the different ecosystems and spheres that we're existing on. And I think it's so important that if we have a healthy ecosphere around us, we're going to be healthy people. We're going to be healthy individuals. I feel like so many people, as a young person, me myself, struggle with so much chaos and disillusion at what is happening around us, the inability to actually do something about it. And I feel like the earth itself is processing so much trauma, like so much trauma. And I think that trauma comes out not just in the flora and fauna and the land itself and the wind and the sea. I think that trauma comes out in us people as well, because we are part of this ecosystem. We are part of this planet. If this planet is experiencing so much trauma, maybe that's why so many people feel so traumatized and upset and are suffering from so much mental health. I just really think that we need to remember to look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is there's total climate catastrophe, there is total disruption, there is total just like absolute decay of the natural systems and the natural ways of living. And I think it's so important to remember that we need to act as a voice to protect, but not just a voice, like we need to physically act. We need to actually do something about it, because if we don't do something, we're not even going to have a place left to act, dance, and breathe upon. There's just not going to be anything left as it once was. And once these climate systems completely collapse, they don't just come back. You know what I mean? Like, once we mine all the fossil fuels, they don't just come back straight away. Like, it's taken millions and millions of years for the earth to create these resources. Yet we managed to rape and pillage them in a couple of hundred for this giant physical, not even physical, this like tyrannical system that just exports, imports, just destroy, decay, rape and pillage. It just seems so illogical to me. It just makes absolutely no sense. I think there's so much importance in autonomy being returned to the people remembering that they have the ability to do anything that they believe in. The importance of grassroots, the importance of local communities, the importance of sustainable living, the importance of not needing resources from neighboring countries and neighboring communities, but actually living in equilibrium and in balance with our ecosystems, and not overtaking, just actually coexisting and collaborating to make the space better. This is what humans traditionally used to do and still can do. Like, we look at history, we only really hear about the last 6,000 years of history. The rest of it is prehistory, because it's pre-civilization. So we don't actually count that as history, because, you know, they weren't a civilized folk. They didn't have enough tools and expertise, but they actually coexisted in harmony with their ecospheres beautifully for more time than we can even hypothesize, because we can't even know for sure, because they had different types of record keeping, and they didn't actually need to record this widespread exportation, importation of goods that navigated around these different kinds of systems, because they actually lived for themselves, and with the land around them. And I think that that is so important. I think that we do not need to be taking. We should be learning to coexist and share. We are so smart. Like, this entire planet is so smart. We are just like, this planet is hosting us. The Mother Earth we're literally like a part of her bosom, you know what I mean? Like, we are the seeds that she wants to cultivate and share ideas and play and magic, and we're meant to be able to coexist with all her infinite facets of growth and creation. Yet we seem to just get so stuck in looking out for a particular few and just deleting the rest, because if they're deleted, then we don't have to worry about them anymore, because they're not there. And the reality is that the ecosystems are collapsing, and life as we know it is collapsing. Like, we're not going to be able to sustain our type of existence for much longer. It's already at absolute critical breaking point. Red flag, guys, like giant red flags, like alarm bells, beep, 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 planet is screeching, like, cannot deal with it anymore, you know? It can't, there's like, it's just beyond control now. Like, we're spiraling things in directions that we've never even hypothesized, because we're just a tiny little speck on this planet's existence. We haven't actually been around here forever. The planet itself and the stardust that is made up of all the multi-dimensional facets of this planet, us too, we're made out of stardust. Everything grew from these bacterias that came from somewhere, and we're floating literally on a giant sphere in space, in the universe. We're all made up of the universe. We're all stardust. Why don't we look inside ourselves and remember that we want to be emanating that which we coexist in? Why don't we want to be emanating an environment and an ecosystem which is harmonious? Why don't we want to be living in harmony? Why do we need to be creating total climate catastrophe and chaos? I can give one example. We live on this continent known as Australia, where there are systems polices, governance, tyranny in place that manufacture the deliberate destruction and disillusionment and just decay of the realms in which we live in. I think we're just a little speckle of dust. I think we're not actually that important, yet we try and like activate and like manifest our importance in places like porch so that we can send it and share it in all these other places, but we're not actually sharing it because you only get to have a piece of it if you've got more goods and resources that are actually totally irrelevant to buy it with. It just makes no sense to me. I really think that it's important to live locally and act locally, and remember that everything we do in our little micro universe is reflected and happens in the macro universe. So making a change, even if it starts with a small change, is better than making no change and sitting and thinking that you don't have the ability to do anything. The cops are all there having a meeting. I told them that I was unable to actually get down because of reasons, and he said, do you mean emotional or do you mean physical? And I said, definitely both. So but yeah, I'm just here today because I am feeling utterly disillusioned by this continent's governing forces of power to have the ability to actually help activate a positive change for the ecosystems and environments that I coexist on this continent. And I think it's really important that we now step up and take matters into our own hands, because we've been shown time and time again throughout history that we can't trust them. They fuck us over every time. Excuse my profanities. But we can't rely on these institutions to serve us when they are not serving us. They are deliberately designed to create destruction and decay. They are there to mine our resources and ship them away and make us be dependable on resources from other states and other places. So we make them rape and pillage while we rape and pillage, and then we lose the ability to actually look after ourselves because we're stuck in this system that only works on the destruction and decay and the deliberate malfunctioning of natural and native ecospheres. It just makes no sense to me. I wish I could just leave it, but I was born on this continent known as Australia. I was forced into these systems. I was forced into this tyranny. I didn't have a choice about it, but I've been upset about it for a really long time. And for a long time, I didn't see that there was any point in doing anything, because what's to be done? This is it. This is what's happening. But then I remembered that we have the ability to make a change and do whatever we believe in. And if we don't do it, who else is going to do it? Like, we need to be existing in our little micro universes in the most best way possible. And that doesn't just mean my best way possible. It means the best for that in which I'm existing on. And I don't think anybody can say that the climate catastrophe is a good thing. I just don't think that the destruction of native ecospheres and native existence is a good thing. Like, it just, once one species starts to disappear, we start to realize just how intricate and how interrelated all these species are. And these ecosystems, they have multi-facets which all coexist in this kind of synergy to create a world where harmony is able to growth in development, like have some kind of positive geared fruition. And if not fruition, at least some kind of flow. And something's going on here. I'm constantly inspired by the ecosystems around us. One of the ecosystems I'm really inspired by is the mycelium network, and that's kind of been described as the world mind, and it kind of looks like a giant brain when they look at it underneath the crust of the earth. And it inspires me because it's kind of like a collective, and I think that every creature that exists on this planet has the ability to function as a collective, and has, no matter whether or not we think it has the ability, like our decisions, our lives, our existences, they all impact each other. Like, everything impacts each other. And that's why I think it's so important to be able to make a positive impact. And that means different things for different people, but as a possum today. I think it's really important that I stand in solidarity with my furry friends that don't have the ability to actually step up and talk for themselves. They're calling their friends. They said, "We've got a possum on the train," and we do. We do have a possum on the train. Here we are. I am on a coal train, and we have successfully blocked all of the train and freight activity in the port of Brisbane this evening, and I just feel really grateful to be here and remember that it's essential to be creating some kind of a resistance and disruption in these bottlenecks of trade. 98% of all of trade in Australia occurs through these ports. The Port of Brisbane is one of the fastest growing ports in Australia and is one of 8 major trade ports. And I just think it's really important to remember that these ports, this mining, this exportation of resources is destroying habitat, destroying ecosphere, and creating utter climate catastrophe. And that's why I'm here today, to talk about the climate catastrophe, talk about how it is now, it is urgent, it's here, it's happening, and talk about the importance of making an active resistance against that, and making an active resistance against the systems and tyranny that are imposed upon us in this continent known as Australia, that is deliberately designed to create this destruction. There's no other way about it. We've seen time and time again that they block any kind of climate action. They don't allow the system to represent the environments in which it coexists on. It just seems completely warped. I just feel upset as a young person that this is happening, that I'm not going to be able to live in a future where I'm going to even be able to breathe, or I'm actually going to be able to even see a possum in the tree, because there's not going to be any trees left. There's not going to be any environment left to even stand up and protect if we just keep waiting around. It's really upsetting that ecosystems are being destroyed at this accelerated rate that is totally unsustainable. It makes no logistical sense, and it just is completely disillusioning. I can't sit down any longer and act content as I'm seeing the earth that I exist on literally being raped and pillaged around me. And for what? The exportation of goods and services. So the exportation of goods and services have gotten to the point where we can't even look after ourselves. We can't even exist as ourselves anymore. We're totally reliant on these other continents, these other countries, shipping all their goods and services to us, which just makes absolutely no sense to me. Why are we using all these resources to ship out all these other resources and then not even have our own resources to exist functionally? The cost of living has gotten to unprecedented levels. I can't afford to live. The people around me can't afford to live. The housing crisis is absolutely shocking. Australia used to be the one place that everybody would be able to own a home. Everybody would be able to feel safe and secure. You can't even find anywhere to rent anymore. It's getting out of control. And how many homes? There's millions of homes that are empty. Millions of rooms that just sit empty while people are forced to live in these adverse conditions and act like they're totally okay with it, act like they're content with it, act like there's a system that's serving us and representing us and respecting us, when this system seems to be creating total and deliberate malfunction on the ways of living. We don't even have basic access to all the things that we're meant to have basic access to. As a possum, I certainly don't, because I'm watching my home totally disappear. It's really upsetting. I don't understand why all the wildlife corridors keep getting snipped up and shoved out of the continent, it's just totally alarming. It just makes no sense to me, and it just seems totally avoidable. I really feel like we have the ability to look after ourselves. We need autonomy respected and returned back to the people. We need to be able to exist and function as a species without raping and pillaging every single thing around us and then shipping it off elsewhere. It's just totally depressing. And I just really think that it is maddening. It doesn't make any sense. I think that we, the people, have the power to be looking after ourselves. Why do we keep looking to these external resources? Why do we keep giving away our own power to look after ourselves and function as ourselves? Why do we no longer look to each other, look to the people, look to the communities around us and help each other? Why don't we pick each other up? Why are we so separated? Why are these widening gaps in classes and social securities continuing to occur? It seems deliberate. It is deliberate. It's a byproduct of these systems and tyranny that imposes total totalitarianism upon us. I just feel upset. I feel like the future is looking extremely dire. I have total and absolute hope that we have the ability to make a change. We need to be the change we want to see in the world. Light shines brighter in the darkest of spaces. So through all these trials and tribulations, we have the ability to learn from our mistakes and to realize that the time is now. We are in total climate catastrophe, total climate emergency, and if we don't act now, we're not even going to have a world to act upon. The planet is in so much trauma. That is why we, the people, are in so much trauma. That is why there's mental health issues off the roof. And as a young person, most people I know, because age doesn't actually matter, every single person I know experiences some form of depression or anxiety or disillusionment that often they can't put their finger on, that often they don't understand where it's coming from. And I truly believe that because we coexist on this planet, we're one of many, many, many multifacets and fractals that coexist on this planet. Because the planet is in so much trauma, that's why we're in so much trauma. It's happening all around us. There is just a system, series of systems that are deliberately imposing this destruction and chaos on us, and people wonder why they're feeling upset, while they're feeling like life seems kind of pointless, why it all kind of feels mundane, because that is a deliberate ploy to keep us just feeling content and stagnant and like we have no ability to actually do anything. I just want to remind everybody that every microsphere becomes every macrosphere. If we make a difference in our personal spheres, in our local communities, that difference will ripple off into the universe. It's always possible. I've got some more friends here today. I feel happy. I feel like it's really important to remember that these systems are designed to repress us, that they are designed to make us feel like we are hopeless. They are designed to make us feel like we don't have a voice or an ability to actually do something. And yeah, I just wanted to say that. And I wanted to say that I'm really grateful to be here and have the ability to talk right now, because I feel like we need solidarity for all beings that coexist on this planet. Love to all beings. It's not just us people. It's the birds, the bees, the wind, the trees, the sea, all beings that coexist. We are but one of many facets on this planet, and I feel really upset because I feel disillusioned that a lot of the beings that we coexist and share this space with don't actually get a voice. They don't actually get an ability to talk, or most people don't listen to that modality of speech or thought. So I think it's really, really important that we act as a voice for those that don't have the ability to speak for themselves. And I'm saying that as a representative of the flora and fauna, and I'm a possum tonight, so nocturnal creature. That's why we're here in the evening, blocking and disrupting the train and freight activity on the Port of Brisbane. Got some friends with me right now. It's intriguing. And here's another example of one of this continent's resources about to be shipped away to another continent wanting our resources, which we buy with other resources, yet have no resources or ability to look after ourselves individually or locally. And I don't say that for all people, but as a collective, we are totally reliant on these external systems and these external resources, which just seems absolutely baffling to me, because we are totally of the ability to function within our means. We have the ability to live off the land. We have the ability to live in harmony with the land. Why do we need to rape and pillage the land around us to the point where there's literally nothing left and total climate catastrophe and chaos? It just makes absolutely no sense to me. Why would you want to completely dilapidate, destroy and destruct the environment that you're living in to the point where you don't even have the ability to grow your own food anymore or access your own resources because you've shipped them off to other continents and other spaces? For what? It doesn't make any sense to me for this ginormous system that doesn't actually represent, reflect, or do anything for the space in which it coexists on. It just is creating chaos and disruption. It's just not working. It hasn't been working for a long time. We need change. We need resurgence. I think a lot of people are feeling that we need a change. I think there's just it's just not okay. I just feel like, well, sorry guys, I need to actually just get a charger. All right, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling more charged up, everybody. So yeah, I've got some friends. They're starting to gather. There's a lot more of them. I think they're a bit confused at the fact that there's a possum. There's actually a animal up on the coal freight train today. I just want to remind people that we are here actively blocking the only train and freight access into the port of Brisbane today. The port of Brisbane is the fastest growing port in Australia, and I think it should be known that 98% of all trade and activity that happens for these systems in this continent known as Australia happens through ports. So that's why we've decided to target the ports today. Hi, I'm here sitting content. And I just feel really grateful to have the ability to talk about issues that I find really upsetting, and that is of the total and utter climate catastrophe and chaos that I'm being forced to live on. I was born into this continent. I didn't have a choice in the matter. I often questioned why I was forced into such a realm of existence and why I felt so much tortured kind of disharmony around me, and started to realize that it felt deliberate. It felt like there was a reason that it was happening. It didn't feel like an accident. It didn't feel like it was going to stop anytime soon. And it's not. If we don't make a change and if we don't do something about the disillusionment we're feeling, why do we think it's going to get any better? Like, if we don't want to make a change and live in a world that we feel safe in, what are we even doing? Like, I don't feel safe about the future. I don't feel secure about existence. I don't feel like the systems in this continent are actually representing the people. They're certainly not representing the environment. They're certainly not representing the ecospheres. They're certainly not even really representing each other. I think the left hand doesn't even talk to the right hand anymore. I just think there's total fucking confusion and chaos. And I just think that for a long time, people have been happy to just watch it happen because they just think it's not going to get out of control. And the reality is, it's out of control. Total red flag, total red alert. Like, we're at a point of utter and absolute climate catastrophe. And if we don't make a change now, there's not even, it's at breaking point. Do you know what I mean? It was at breaking point a long time ago. I'm not saying to abandon hope. Hope is always around the corner, and hope shines brighter in darker spaces. So I feel inspired in a way, and I feel like through all these trials and tribulations we will have the ability to grow forward and to collectively make a change. I spoke about the mycelium network a little bit before because it was an ecosphere that inspired me, and it's the mushroom network, which is underneath the Earth's crust, which is kind of like the world brain. Everything that happens on the Earth is sent in these kind of like little paths and neuron networks that act as a collective, and everything that dies and decays and destructs eventually is reborn and regrows and regenerates. And I just think that there is so much beauty around us, and even though it seems like I could just abandon myself to the depression and anxiety and fear of what's happening around me, I could also try and create a resurgence of hope within myself, which I hope inspires and informs myself to inspire and inform those around me. And I just think it's really important to remember that everything we do, every action, regardless of how small it seems, makes a difference. We are collectively influencing each other in ways beyond that which we can even speak of, whether it be energetically, emotionally, physically. We have the capacity to inform each other, to inform the spaces, and to coexist and inspire and instill light in all the spaces around us. And I just feel like a lot of people forget that. It's so easy to think like there's no point to anything. We're not going to have the ability to do anything. I'm just going to sit. I'm just going to be depressed. I'm just going to wallow away because there's no point. No one's doing anything anyway. It's like, well, if you don't get up and do something, why would anybody else? You can't make commentary on anybody else around you if you're doing the same fucking thing. Not that we should be making commentary on individual people. I know people try their hardest, but you can always try a little bit harder, I think. And I think that's really important to remember. I think it's really essential to remember that autonomy needs to be returned to the people. I think that power needs to be returned to the people. I'm sick of this deliberate widening gap of social classes that makes us turn against each other. Why can't we all get along? Because there's deliberate systems in place which divide and conquer us. They don't want us to feel like we can work together. They don't want us to feel like we have the ability to actually make a change and create a world that we want to live in. So that's why I think it's absolutely the quintessential, most important thing to step up and do what you believe in. Because otherwise, what are you doing? Do you live every day and think, I had a great day. I felt inspired. I did everything that I could do today to make myself feel like I was existing. Do you actually feel alive? Do you feel like you're in a numb state of monotony that is just going nowhere? You're just living Groundhog Day, day in, day out, day in, day out. Why not do something about it then and create a change? You have the ability to do anything that you believe in, and it starts with yourself. It starts with you making that change within yourself, and every little change that we make in our own little micro universes literally reflects and ripples out to our macro spheres. Okay, to our mesospheres, to our communities, to our families, to our friends, to the world, to the universe around us. We are made of stardust. That stardust emanates a light that shines in the galaxy. I know it sounds cheesy, but we're literally on a giant rock planet in space that is floating through the universe. So everything we're doing is going to send out into the universe. Why not make what you're doing something so shiny that the universe can't help but wink right back at you? Life is short. And I think that we have the capacity to make it beautiful. And I think that if we don't feel inspired every day, why not make steps to feel inspiration? And I know it's hard to feel inspired when literally the ecosystems around you are collapsing. When you look outside and you just see a concrete jungle and depression and bright lights that burn your eyes and no actual freedom or flow that is resonating with that of the natural spheres. I know that it can get dark and dreary, but we can reimagine, we can replan, we can resonate, we can recreate, we can promote resurgence, we can actively work towards creating a better future. And the time is now. If we don't do it now, then when's it going to happen? Like, we have to do what we believe in. And I believe that we are in a point of total climate collapse. I don't see this as something to cry about. I see this as something to take action about. And that's why we're taking a collective resistance. I'm really grateful that Blockade Australia is working towards a collective movement to actually inspire change. And I've got two banners. You can't see them, but you know, there's two banners hanging off the coal. And they say, hope inspires resistance, and the system is killing us. And because these systems are killing us, these systems are designed for the deliberate destruction and disbalance of these environments that we live in. And as a being, I don't understand how that seems to make any logistical or reasonable sense. I don't understand why we aren't allowed to help and protect and serve these spaces that we live in. I don't understand why I'm watching my planet that I am a vessel on be literally raped and pillaged for what? The exportation of resources to the point where we can't even sustainably look after ourselves without the reliability on other continents' resources? It makes no sense to me. Why are we shipping everything out? Why are we raping and pillaging everything? Why are we sucking our local environments dry and then having to rely on other environments? Why? It just doesn't make sense. Like, why can't we act locally and actually be able to regenerate and live in some kind of harmony with the space that we coexist on? Why do we need to destroy everything? Why does everything need to decay around us? Why can't we replant and grow? And we can do that. We can grow hope within ourselves, within each other, within the communities, within the place, within the planet. We can do anything we believe in. So that's why I'm sitting up here today, and that's why I'm really grateful to be able to talk to you all, and that's why I think it's really beautiful, even though people might get upset with it, that we've blocked all the train and freight activity this evening into and out of the Port of Brisbane. Port of Brisbane is one of 8 major trade ports in Australia, and it is the fastest growing port in Australia. So I think it's really important that we've kind of capped this bottleneck, even if it's only for a little while. I've got my friends here. I feel I've got a few friends here. It's not lonely in the dark, but you know, I'm a nocturnal creature. I like the dark. I think it's really important that we acknowledge and identify that we're in a total state of climate collapse right now. And if we don't get up and do something about it, it's just going to keep happening. We're in a total emergency. We can't just sit back and ignore what's going on, because it's literally in not only our peripherals, but literally right in front of us. Like, there is decay and destruction in unprecedented waves that is accelerating total collapse. Like, systems around us are totally collapsing. I'm here in solidarity with all my furry friends today, because I feel like the ecosystems, the flora, the fauna, the animals, the birds, the bees, the trees, the air, the seas, they don't get to talk. They don't have a voice where people listen. And I think that we as people are meant to be acting as a voice. We need to be talking and representing what we believe in. And I think that I believe in the natural world because it exists, and I am scared of a future where it doesn't exist. And that future is it's here. It's already happening. So many ecospheres don't exist anymore. And the more that get wiped out, like dominoes, they all start to fall. The earth has been stretched at overcapacity for a long time now. And we are just a small speckle of existence on this planet. We don't actually have an understanding of how intricate these systems are. The earth is able to hold on, and she's been holding on for a really long time, but she's been overstretched for a long time. And that's why we're seeing things start to happen at an accelerated rate, because she can't keep holding on like that. You can't overstretch a person and then be surprised when they finally have to drop it all and walk away. You know, it's the nature of things. And I think that we have the ability to make a change. I think that through these trials and tribulations, we will grow brighter and stronger than ever before. But that means actually stepping up and taking action and actually doing something about it. We can't just sit docile and act like these systems are going to help and represent and reflect anything that the autonomy of the people is meant to be flowing in. That's just not going to happen. It hasn't happened, and we need to take matters into our own hands, because otherwise there's not even going to be any planet left for us to do anything on. I'm scared about my future. I'm scared about my little siblings' future. I'm scared about the future of the animals. I'm scared about the future of the air. I'm scared about a future where I can't actually swim in the ocean or breathe air. I'm scared about a future where there's not even any fish left in the ocean. I'm scared about a future where there's no trees left outside, because nothing can actually grow anymore, because we've completely depleted the Earth's abilities to grow itself. I don't think it's that bad. I think that the Earth will always continue to grow, but I think that time works very differently to how we humans think it does. We're just one little speckle of existence, and if it gets to the point of total destruction and chaos, I'm certain the Earth will bounce back, but I'm not certain that we'll be a part of that bounce back. And I think it's so essential to remember that we have the ability to live in harmony. Why do we need to outsource all our resources to the point where we can't even live within our own means? Why has the cost of living gotten to this point? Why has it gotten to the point where people are starving and not able to feed themselves, and there's all these corporations chucking all the food in the bins? It just makes no sense to me. Like, I go look at the back of Coles or Woolworths, there's literally 4 or 5 bins worth of food. That's totally fine, just sitting in the bin to rot. It's not even out of date most of the time. Somebody's just accidentally given it a little knock so it doesn't meet the aesthetic functionality. Why do we just chuck everything in the bin? Why do we use all these resources to make all these resources to then throw away and have to get rid of all these resources and then not have any resources to live within our own means? It makes no sense. It's a glitch in the matrix. it just seems to be going on and on and on and on. It's okay, and that's why I'm here today. On this coal train, we've blocked all the train and freight activity into the port of Brisbane, and I am standing in solidarity with all the furry friends and Chris's out there on this continent known as Australia that don't really have much of a home left. Don't actually have anywhere left to go, so that's why we're forced to come and sit on coal trains, because there's nowhere left. This was a kind of bright moving thing. I thought, I like bright momentum. I might be able to shift some momentum within that momentum. But I'm sitting stationary, and that's alright. But I think that it's important to remember that we are existing on this continent that has a series of systems which are imposed upon us. I was born on this continent. I didn't have a choice in the matter, and here I am. And I feel disillusioned. I feel upset, and I feel like it's a bit dreary, but I feel so much hope. I feel so much power in the resistance. I feel so much inspiration in autonomy being returned to the people, and I feel so much love and light, and I just feel so grateful to be here right now and to act as a voice for my furry friends, because I think it's really important that we speak up and help each other and act as a voice, not only for, there's like lots of people that don't actually have the ability to do things for themselves, and I think that we need to be working together to be helping each other look after each other, and I think that means looking after yourself as well, and I think that means creating a space and coexisting in an environment where you feel inspired to work towards things. And I feel like the deliberate imposition of these systems, these structures, these governances, this tyranny imposed upon us in this continent as Australia don't actually serve the people, don't actually serve the ecosystems that they're existing on. And I just think it's so important to live a life that is worth living, and to live a life where you feel inspired, and to live a life where you feel like you are making a difference. And I really feel like the deliberate destruction of our native ecospheres is not doing that. And I think we really need to realize that climate catastrophe is here. It is huge. It's not going away. The systems on this continent known as Australia have deliberately designed this and are not going to take climate action. So we need to take matters into our own hands, and we need to step up and actively resist this destruction before it gets to the point of total, utter, absolute annihilation, which we can totally do. We're doing it already. And we can do more. We can always do more. We can do that little bit that we thought we couldn't do, and then we realize that we can actually do anything that we believe in and we put our hearts and minds to. And I think that hope causes resistance, and I think that resistance causes hope, and I think that everything actually coexists and feeds into each other in this intricate synergy, which is kind of like a symphony that is just constantly dancing and moving. And life is like art, and art is like life. And the earth and all its existence and all its life forms are this moving masterpiece that coexists and feed into each other to breathe and emanate beauty. And I think that existence is beautiful and worth fighting for. And I think the time is now. The time was a long time ago, but if we don't do it now, we're not going to have a future. We're not going to have anything to actually fight for. It already is at complete breaking point. We need to remember that future generations deserve to be able to breathe clean air. They also deserve to have access to resources. They also deserve to be able to swim in an ocean that has fish in it. I think that the children deserve to live in a world where autonomy is returned to the people, where we're able to live within our own means, where we're actually able to function and coexist within the spaces that we live on, that we're not entirely reliant on external resources being delivered to us and being raped and pillaged from places around us. It just seems utterly baffling. We should be working towards resurgence. We should be working towards regeneration for the future generations, which is a totally viable and positive manifestation that will come into fruition if we believe in it. And I believe in it with my entire heart and being. And I really think that we need to be demilitarizing, decolonizing, and regenerating. And we can do anything we put our minds to. I think that the system is killing us. It's suffocating us. There's no homes left for our furry friends and critters. We're watching all the species around us being pushed to breaking point, and it's happening. It's now. Catastrophe is here. That doesn't mean to lose hope. That doesn't mean to give up. That means to push even harder in recreating and regenerating a different outlook, because we're totally capable of it. We have the ability to do anything. And I really just have so much hope that if we activate even a small change in our lives, in our little micro universes, that will emanate, reflect, and resonate in the entire macro universes and sing into the multiverse and beyond. Anything is possible. We're literally stardust floating on this giant rock planet in space through the universe with all the other stars and galaxies. We emanate so much light. We are literally emotional frequency. And yeah, I feel like the emotional frequency of the planet is totally traumatized, is totally screaming out for help, is totally needing us to step up and take action and do something about this utter destruction and decay that is happening at an accelerated rate that just is unprecedented. Like, we can't even begin to realize what's going to happen if all the ecosystems around us start to collapse. Like, life as we know it will not exist. And I'm not even currently liking life as we know it, but I don't want it to topple down completely. I want us to work together and build a future that we believe in. And I think that it is so important. And I think that we are so capable. And I think that climate catastrophe is not it. I don't think that actually serves anything. I don't think this actually represents anything. I don't think this actually does anything positive for any of us. All of us. Like, I'm sick of this widening gap between classes. I'm sick that we don't have spaces where we can actually just come together. We need more safe spaces where we can collaborate and co-create. And I just feel like I know that the systems and tyranny and governance of this continent are not allowing that. They're not promoting that. They're not representing that. They don't want that. They don't want there to be autonomy to the people. They don't want the people to be able to represent, respect, reflect, protect, and serve themselves. That's why they make us entirely reliant on us. That's why they make us entirely reliant on all this trade, all this shipping, all this importation and exportation of resources. They don't want us to have the ability to look after ourselves. But we need to look after ourselves, because if we can't look after ourselves, how can we begin to look after anybody else? And I know we sure as hell need to be looking after each other, because it's a hard place out there. It's a scary place sometimes, and you need a little help with your friends. You need a little help from your family. You need a little help from that in which you're coexisting on. And it's going to be hard for the planet to help us when there's no planet left, when there's no ability for the planet to actually grow and be a true accentuation of that which it is. And that's what it's getting to. Like, I'm here in solidarity with all my furry friends, with all beings that realize that the earth needs to be protected and needs to be served upon. Like, we're here to enact change. We're here to create an existence of resistance. I'm not going to live in this state of disillusionment where I feel like my actions don't mean or represent or do anything. I'm here at the port of Brisbane, and we've blocked all the train and freight activity. Here's the coal, and I'm just baffled that Australia outsources all its resources and doesn't even have the capacity or ability to look after itself within its own resources. It looks like there's some kind of a vehicle approaching, and I'm just really grateful to have the ability to actively resist with a collective resistance that wants to make a change and wants to make a difference. Because if not us, then who? If not now, when? And if not this place, then what place? it's not even going to be a place. I think we are so lucky to have the ability to step up and help and represent and respect and reflect each other and our ecosystems. And I think it's so important that we do so, because as a possum, I'm feeling really upset that there's no place left to go. And I just want us to be able to coexist in some kind of an equilibrium, and we coexist in equilibriums regardless of whether or not we want it. And it's really important to remember that everything we do, every synergy, every energy is an exchange, and it is coexisting in this beautiful symphony. And we really need to work together. We need to remember how we impact each other, how every little thing we do impacts the greater world in which we live in. And I mean that on a micro, on a meso, on a macro level, on a small, a medium, a large level. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. Like, and that goes to your thoughts as well, you know, like the power of positive thinking, the power of pronoia. Remembering that the universe actually has your best interests at heart and actually wants the best for you. But that means you need to want the best for yourself as well. And I know that it can seem hard to find that inspiration in a place where there is total and absolute climate catastrophe and destruction that is a deliberate mechanism of these systems and governance and tyranny on this continent known as Australia, but it's possible. And even a little speckle of hope goes a long way. I've got some more friends coming. I think they're really entertained by the fact that I'm a possum. And yeah, I stand in solidarity with all my furry friends, and I feel really grateful. I think it's really important to remember autonomy and power to the people, and autonomy and power to the power of belief. And that means believing that you have the capacity to make a change. You have the capacity to make a difference. You have the capacity to help co-create a world where you actually want to live in. And I think it's quintessential to remember that we need a world to be living to actually be able to do that. So helping the planet and stopping climate catastrophe is utterly imperative. It takes precedent over everything else because climate catastrophe is here. Climate catastrophe has been proven time and time again to not be of interest to the systems, the tyranny, the governance of the operating services that are that which the powers vested be upon this continent known as Australia. They don't care about climate action. They show us time and time again that they will stop and block it in whatever ways that they can. So that is why we need to take matters into our own hands and actually step up and make a difference. We need to make a difference in our world. Hope lies in the resistance. We need autonomy returned to the people. Oh, they got more lights. Yeah. I just want to... I've got a good light now, which is really fun. Oh yeah, so I just want to remind everybody that I'm on a coal train today. Well, you can't see it, sorry. Have successfully blocked all the train and freight activity into the Port of Brisbane. The Port of Brisbane is the fastest growing port in Australia. It's one of 8 major trade ports, and this continent known as Australia has stated that 98% of all trade happens through these ports. So that's why I'm up here today. That's why we've decided to block all the train and freight access into and out of the port, because it seems important to kind of target a bottleneck of these trade unions, because I just find it really baffling that we export all our resources and then don't have the ability to live within our own means. It just seems disgusting. Sorry, it doesn't seem disgusting. It is disgusting. It's disastrous. It doesn't serve the ecosystems, it doesn't serve the environment, it doesn't serve or represent or reflect the needs of the people. And I think that we really have the ability to grow into something beautiful, and that means having a place to grow on. And being at this point of total and utter absolute climate catastrophe doesn't create infinite ability actually grow and do something. Like, if there's no planet left, we can't really activate all these hopes and dreams, can we? Like, we can metaphysically, but, you know, I think that it's really important to remember that, well, we can stand together in solidarity. And that means for all our little critter friends as well. Because our furry friends don't have a voice that we listen to. They most certainly do have a voice, but it's getting hard to hear their voice over the deafening roar of machinery that is churning up their homes at a disgusting pace. Makes no sense. It's just completely disillusioning. And as a young person, I feel like there's always hope, and I feel like the deliberate mechanisms of these systems and tyranny are designed to destruct, and they're designed to divide and conquer us. They don't want us to remember that we have the ability to make a change. They want us to sit and just be comfortable with destruction around us because it's been going on for so long, and they've had these vehicles, these machines, these just systems that they don't help us. And I think it's really important to remember that we need to help ourselves. We can't be reliant on all these external forces, because if we can't help ourselves, then how are we meant to help anybody or anything else around us? If we can't actually do it ourselves, why should we be expectant and reliant on everybody else? Like, it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't make any sense. And I just think that we need to remember that there is resistance, there is hope, there is activation, there is the ability to make a change and exist in a world that we want to live on. And I'm sick of feeling like that's not here. They're doing something strange. I don't know what. They're doing something. There's like a team of them now, and they're doing things. Busy bees. And yeah, I just feel really grateful to talk. And I feel like I'm standing in solidarity with my furry friends, and I think that's really important. I feel really inspired by the Mother Earth. I feel like I am just one little speckle of dust upon her, but I think that this entire planet is made up of stardust, and I think that all these stardust little speckles come together and create this kind of giant thing that is so sparkly and shiny that just wants to shine, and can and will. And there's like so many fractals and different mirror points that are just activating so much light, and there is so much power to the collective. There is so much power to the people. There is just so much power in resistance. There's so much power in hope, and we need to realize that we are at a point of total and utter climate catastrophe, and this is a deliberate and designed reality of these systems, of these governances, of these tyrannies, of these totalitarianisms that we are imposed with from being born here. It just seems really unnecessary, and I just really think that we need to identify that this is not okay, that we shouldn't be forced to live like that, and that we deserve to live a life that we feel like is worth living. I think people need to feel inspired every day. I feel like people need to actually feel like they're living and not feel like they're stuck in these pits of depression and fear, because I feel like if we're literally destroying and destructing the planet around us, how can we not help but feel some form of destruction within ourselves? Like, every microsphere is every macrosphere, and everything interrelates and affects each other. Like, everything influences everything. Everything is everything. So if the planet is being literally raped and pillaged and ripped apart and teared apart and facing so much destruction, does it not make sense that so many people feel so much disillusion and depression and anxiety and fear within themselves and don't even know why? Like, maybe because we are a vehicle, a vessel that coexists on this planet. Maybe the planet is feeding through our consciousness and our physical bodies what is happening to it, to her, to they, to whatever this planet is. Like, it's like we all feed into each other. Like, we are all symbiotic with each other, whether or not we like it. We all coexist in this equilibrium, and we are all a part of it. So that means we need to work together and do something about it, because I feel like I know that these systems, this tyranny, this governance on this continent known as Australia is not representing the environment in which it exists on. Coexistence is essential. It can't just be forced upon us in a way that doesn't represent or create autonomy or create any form of growth. I just feel really disillusioned that there's no ability to actually have a voice that is heard in a way that is effective in these traditional modes or modalities. And I just feel like it's really important to remember that we need to create hope, because hope creates resistance. And if we don't have the ability to create a change, then what are we even doing in the first place? So I feel really grateful to be sitting here on this like giant pile of coal, because coal is one of Australia's many exports, and I just think that it makes no sense to be exporting all our resources. It just seems utterly and absolutely baffling to me. And so I'm here, and I have successfully blocked all the train and freight activity into the Port of Brisbane for this evening. And the Port of Brisbane is one of Australia's fastest growing ports, and it's one of 8 main ports where 98% of all trade activity that happens on this continent goes through. And it's kind of like a bottleneck. And I'm feeling really disillusioned and upset by the systems and the governance and the tyranny that is being imposed upon us in this continent known as Australia. I'm on Quandamooka country, which backs onto Jagera country, and I feel really grateful to be able to stand in solidarity with all my furry friends and critters that don't actually have a voice and really don't have much of a home left. And I think that it's essential to remember that every footstep that we make on this planet emanates a presence. And I think it's really important to have an essence that emanates hope, that emanates coexistence, because we are but one of many creatures living on this planet. And we need to remember that we all coexist on it. All beings deserve to have a home. All beings deserve to have a future. All beings deserve to coexist with each other. And I know that the systems and the governance and the tyranny on this continent do not respect or reflect the power or the individuality of these different beings that coexist on these systems. And that makes me really upset. It makes me really upset that I feel like the planet itself doesn't have a voice that is able to be heard or listened within these systems or within this tyranny. It's totalitarianism. We're at total climate catastrophe, at total climate collapse. Enough is enough. Enough was enough a long time ago, and now we're getting to points of like degeneration. We're just absolutely defiling the planet that we coexist on. Why are we content to watch our native and our environmental spaces around us decay at this accelerated rate? Why does it look like there's going to be no future of the sea? There's going to be no future of the birds and the bees and the trees. Why does that feel okay to most people? Like, it just makes me really upset. I've got a lot more friends here now. I just feel so blessed that I've got so many friends. Like, as a possum, like, my friends just keep dying and disappearing, and it gets kind of dreary, but today I've decided to perch up on this giant mountain of coal, which was made out of the ancestors of the trees I actually used to live on. But there's none of them left, and I suppose there's not going to be none of this stuff left soon either, because we're really running out of fossil fuels. We're just losing the plot. My friends are here. And I just want to say that I'm here standing in solidarity because I really believe in the power of collective resistance, and I really believe in the power of the people working together. And I think that autonomy needs to be returned to the people, and the people need to serve, act, represent, protect, and serve the planet that they live on. I think that we need to do this for the hope of future generations, and we need to do this for the hope of ourselves. We need to feel inspired. We need to feel like we're actually making a difference. Is this actually doing anything? Yeah, I've blocked all the train and freight activity into the Port of Brisbane this evening. I'm just a possum. So I feel like to not doing nothing, but nothing is still something, and something is everything. So totally subjective. My friends are coming, and I just feel really grateful to remind people that these systems and this tyranny and the governance of this continent do not represent or respect or reflect the people anymore. And I think it's really important. Yeah.
Yes, can you give me your phone?
I can't